Now, to start off with, we would be discussing arguments against Parsons as your book refers to this. What page number is this? This is page number 85 from your Cambridge endorsed book. Arguments against Parsons, number one. And I'd rather, if someone asks me, I'd rather call it arguments against the fifth thesis because the idea of FIT thesis was put forward by Parsons and Good, and they were both prominent functionalists, and they were the ones who came up with this idea of FIT thesis. In other words, what I'm trying to imply over here is for us to understand this, for us to know this, we first need to know what the FIT thesis is. And it was the fifth thesis that we had discussed in the last class. And to give you a quick little recap on what the fifth thesis is, when we talk about the fifth thesis, the general idea over here is the assumption, rather, let me call it an assumption or a theory. The theory over here is according to this fifth thesis or a thesis. The assumption कहते हैं, theory कहते हैं, thesis कहते हैं. Fifth thesis के मुताबिक we once had extended families, right? Let me just write it down temporarily. We once had extended families, right? And these extended families, they used to work out quite well when it came to agrarian societies or agriculture based societies. They worked quite well when we spoke about cottage industries. और उसके बाद what happened was आपके पास सोसाइटी में इंडस्ट्रियलाइजेशन आई. Industrialization आई, industrial revolution आया. And this industrial revolution eventually led to a decline in extended families and the development or the popularity of nuclear families, right? This is, I mean, the core of the core of a thesis is this, right? Extended families transforming into nuclear families now to be able to fit into the requirements of an industrial society, right? Extended families transforming into nuclear families to be able to fit into the requirements of an industrial society. This is what the fit thesis is all about, right? I mean, there's more to it, but yeah, I can't just go to explain the entire fit thesis over here. So, when we talk about arguments against fit thesis, in other words, are we trying to nullify this entire concept? Are we trying to talk about, or are we trying to bring in an argument that goes against this? This is what we'd be discussing today, right? I hope I did make sense here.
Yes, sir.
Myself, I know.
Yes, sir.
I would just want to double check on you all. Okay. Now, another thing that I'd want everyone to keep in mind here is, or rather, let me throw a quick little question. You know what? When we talk about our understanding, if I talk about your understanding about how this evolution took place, or did it even take place, the general understanding that we all hold is कि पहले तो हमारे पास extended families थी, हम लोग बड़ी बड़ी families में रहते थे, और आज with the passage of time हमारे पास nuclear families आ गई हैं. How many of you agree to this?
Yes, sir.
One,
Yes.
two. What about the rest?
I do.
You do. Three. I want to know from more. Come on. Who would agree to this? The general understanding that we hold about there being extended families first, मतलब बड़ी बड़ी पहले families में लोग रहते थे, और आज with the passage of time हमारे पास बड़ी बड़ी families खत्म होके nuclear families बनती जा रही हैं. My question is, how many of you agree to this? If you agree, you speak. If you do not agree, you will speak. I've heard three people so far.
Yes, sir.
Four.
Yes, sir.
Five. All right.
Somewhat I agree.
Okay, somewhat you'd agree. All right, I like it there. But so we have a few people who do agree that there were once extended families that were popular, and now with the pass of time अब extended families कम होती जा रही हैं, nuclear families आती जा रही हैं. The question is, are you sure? And the second question is, what makes you think it is like this? Just because you've been told this doesn't actually mean it actually happened. Just because probably you were told that families were extended in your part of the world doesn't necessarily mean extended family forms were the prominent family form elsewhere as well. Yeah. To take a start with this, सबसे पहली चीज, now I'm assuming everyone knows what we're up to, what I'm up to here. Arguments against this fifth thesis. The question is, हमारे पास क्या गारंटी है कि पहले extended families होती थी? I mean, how do you think, or what makes you think पहले हमारे पास extended families होती थी? Right? There's a possibility. I mean, if there's evidence for extended families, or if there's a theory like the theory that Parsons and Good put forward, there's there are claims from other sociological commentators who go against this as well, right? And that's the beauty of the subject. You don't just give in to anything that you've heard, right? When you talk about arguments against the fifth thesis, Janet Valerie Finch, 1989. Finch tried examining the idea that before industrial revolution, family obligations were much stronger and family members provided greater support for each other than in the industrial and post-industrial eras. Now, if you remember when we were discussing the fifth thesis, what I had said while explaining this was, according to the idea of fifth thesis, there was a time when there was a lot more of a role to play by a family than it has to today. Back then, there was a lack of welfare support from the state. There weren't specialized institutions that were there to help people whenever in need. सवाल ये पैदा होता है कि क्या ये सब, I mean, whatever the points were that supported the fifth thesis, I mean, there's an equal possibility that the amount of family obligation and the extent to which we talk about a strong support from family members wasn't as evident as we think it was. There is a possibility, no?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Now, according to Finch in 1989 examined the idea that before the Industrial Revolution, family obligations were much stronger and family members provided greater support for each other than in the industrial and post industrial eras. She found little evidence to support this view of the pre industrial family. Bang! According to Finch, I did examine it, and guess what? I did not find out what you think used to happen. In other words, she does not buy the idea of fit thesis. She doesn't really agree to the idea of fit thesis because she claims she found very little evidence to support this point, that there was a lot of support that was there from the wider extended family. There was more, it was more like a family obligation to be there for your extended kinship network, right? One. Another point that I'd like bringing in over here. I hope this made sense.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Another point that I'd like to bring in over here. You know what? I mean, quite a lot of us, quite a majority, we seem to be very confident about the idea that an extended family was the most popular family form pre-industrialization. हम में से अक्सर लोग ये बात पे बिलीव करते हैं या इस बात को मानने के लिए तैयार हो जाते हैं बड़ी आसानी से कि इंडस्ट्रियलाइजेशन से पहले, अर्बनाइजेशन से पहले, एक्सटेंडेड फैमिली ही वो फैमिली फॉर्म थी जो सबसे ज़्यादा प्रोमिनेंट थी, सबसे ज़्यादा पॉपुलर थी. The question that rises here is, have we double checked this? There have been so many historical studies that have shown that there was a wide range of household types that were present in pre-industrial period, and there's no evidence that extended families were the only norm. Remember, norm comes from the word normal. In this context, there's no evidence that the extended families were the only acceptable family form. Do we get this?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Now,
Yes, sir.
one, we spoke about this. Number two, we spoke about this. And after hearing both of these points, don't you think there would be so many people who would actually start questioning the idea of fit thesis? कि भाई साहब, whatever we did believe in, was that even true? Whatever the fit thesis put forward by Parsons and Good, whatever they did claim about the structures of family, was that even close to reality? Or to what extent was that even close to reality? Right? Now, such studies have led some sociologists to question the idea of a fit between the nuclear family and the process of industrialization, right? One alternative suggestion rather, is that industrialization and urbanization first occurred in parts of Western Europe because pre-industrial family structures were already mainly nuclear rather than extended. Now, that's a good one there as well. The general understanding that we hold about the emergence of nuclear families is कि ये तो इंडस्ट्रियलाइजेशन के बाद हुआ था. इट वाज आफ्टर इंडस्ट्रियलाइजेशन कि आपके पास न्यूक्लियर फैमिलीज ने पॉपुलैरिटी गेन करना शुरू कर दी थी. However, according to this, there's another suggestion कि आपके पास इंडस्ट्रियलाइजेशन से पहले न्यूक्लियर फैमिलीज थी, और क्योंकि आपके पास इंडस्ट्रियलाइजेशन से पहले न्यूक्लियर फैमिलीज थी, आपके पास जैसे इंडस्ट्रियल रेवोल्यूशन आया, इन सारी चीज़ों ने इंडस्ट्रियल रेवोल्यूशन को फर्दर सपोर्ट किया, इंडस्ट्रियलाइजेशन के प्रोसेस और अर्बनाइजेशन के प्रोसेस के लिए आसानी पैदा की. रिमेंबर द अदर डे इन द लास्ट क्लास व्हेन आई वाज टेलिंग यू अ स्टोरी अबाउट मिस्टर एक्स, जो मैं कह रहा था ये स्क्रिप्टेड चीज, मैं आपको कहानी बता रहा हूँ मिस्टर एक्स के बारे में.
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
Yeah. Now, I put things in a manner. I mean, I deliberately put things in a manner that I made it sound like it was the way I said it was. Remember the story? There was Mr. X. He used to live in a rural area. It was him, his wife, his children. They all used to work together. And it was after industrialization that they had to shut down the work they used to do, and they had to move to the urban parts of the country, which led to them getting detached from their extended families to move towards a nuclear family in the urban areas of the country. ये मैंने खुद बताया था आपको, ठीक है. बट ये भी तो पॉसिबिलिटी है कि पहले से ही आपके पास न्यूक्लियर फैमिलीज हों, जिसकी वजह से द अमाउंट ऑफ फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी दैट इंडस्ट्रियल and industrial society required, it made it easier फॉर देम, क्योंकि वो शायद पहले से ही न्यूक्लियर फैमिली में रहते थे, जिसकी वजह से उनके लिए आसानी हो गई कि जैसे इंडस्ट्रियल रेवोल्यूशन आया, दे कुड वेरी फ्लेक्सिबली make use of the new economic opportunity that they got now and move wherever they had to for, of course, a better lifestyle. We're talking about geography
Yes.
over here. What do you think? There is a possibility, no?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm not saying this. You know what? I keep on saying this. I mean, no, yeah, I keep on reminding students whenever I'd be teaching a particular perspective, whenever I'd be teaching a particular theory or a thesis, I'd try to make myself sound like a staunch supporter of that perspective. I'm deliberately doing this because I want you to understand this. And once I'm done with that perspective, my loyalty towards it finishes right there. So
Yes, sir.
everyone gets this, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Sir.
Yes, sir.
One alternative suggestion to this is industrialization and urbanization first occurred in parts of Western Europe because pre industrial family structures were already mainly nuclear rather than extended, unlike what the fifth thesis claims it was like, right? And as a result, they could respond to the new economic opportunities requiring family mobility and flexibility. In other words, pre industrial family structures without unbreakable ties to extended kin were a contributing cause of industrial development, like I just said. Get this, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Let's
Yes.
move on and take another point here. If we have a look at this one at the top of the screen, we see although extended families existed, they were not as common or not as dominant as fit theorists have suggested. I mean, nowhere did we say कि extended families नहीं थी. हो सकती हैं कि वहां पे हों, लेकिन क्या हमारा ये मानना बिल्कुल दुरुस्त दुरुस्त होगा कि पहले सिर्फ और सिर्फ एक्सटेंडेड फैमिलीज थी? आई डोंट थिंक दैट मेक्स सेंस देयर, right? Oh yes, there is a possibility that there would be extended families there, just like there were other family forms there as well. But for us to believe that the nuclear family was, sorry, the extended families was the norm back then, that the extended family was the most prominent or or the dominant family structure as the fifth theorists claim it was, it might be wrong, right? One reason for this was that average life expectancy back then was low. Remember, I mean, we have statistical support for this point as well. Over these years, over the last century, we've seen that the life expectancy in many Western countries, especially the UK, has gone up, right? People end up living more than they used to once. I know this doesn't really fit into what we think about how things are over here in Pakistan, but I'm talking about the Western world there, right? Remember, today there are more of health facilities, and there's better hygiene because of which, and there's this advancement in terms of medicine. This has probably resulted in an increase in life expectancy, right? One reason for this was that average life expectancy was low, around 35 to 40 years, so the majority of adults did not live enough to become grandparents, right? If they're not living long enough to become grandparents, which automatically reduces the chances of a vertically extended family. Remember, when you talk about a vertical extended family, we're talking about three generations at least, right? That is you, your parents, and your grandparents. All of this is only possible if the life expectancy is high. If the life expectancy, my dear, is not high, don't you think that automatically reduces the chances of there being vertical extended families? You know, I keep on giving the example of the Queen. You know, there's Queen Elizabeth, and then there's Charles, and then there's William, and then there's George now, and the Queen is still up and running. The point is, that's possible because of life expectancy being high in the UK. If the life
And
expectancy wouldn't have been this high, don't you think it wouldn't? I mean, if the life expectancy is not high, not many people would live long enough to see their grandchildren. Get this?
Yes, sir.
correct.
Get this, everyone? John, give me a minute.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
All right, so again, yeah. Now, another point that we could bring in over here, industrialization in the United Kingdom may have been helped by the main inheritance system of primogeniture. Now, what is primogeniture? It's written right beneath it. The inheritance system where the firstborn son inherits all the family's wealth, acquires everything, and the younger siblings are to move out, right? That could be another factor over here as well, another contributory factor towards the development of industrialization as well, right? Industrialization in the United Kingdom may also have been helped by the main inheritance system of primogeniture. Have you realized we keep on saying may, we keep on saying suggestion, we keep on saying using the word there being a possibility? Don't make it sound like you're too certain about it, because जितनी आपके पास इन सपोर्ट थ्योरीज हैं, इफ नॉट मोर, उतनी आपके पास अगेंस्ट थ्योरीज भी होती हैं. कल तक आई हैड worked towards making you all believe that it was the fit thesis which actually happened, and today it's me taking a u-turn altogether. That's how we go about, right? Industrialization in the United Kingdom may also have been helped by the main inheritance system of primogeniture. That is, the firstborn son inherits all the family's wealth, including the home, and younger brothers and sisters had to move out. This put wealth in fewer hands. And you know what? बच्चा, इंडस्ट्रियलाइजेशन ऐसे तो नहीं आई होगी. इतनी रैपिड ग्रोथ इंडस्ट्रीज के अंदर, इतने मैसिव स्केल पे आपके पास फैक्ट्रीज लगी थी. ऑल ऑफ दैट रिक्वायर्ड अ लॉट ऑफ कैपिटल, right? So this system, inheritance system of primogeniture, could have been, there's a possibility that this might have led to a few individuals having a lot of wealth so that they could put that to use with a proper plan. They could invest it in growing industries. Get it,
Yes,
everyone?
sir.
Does everyone get this? Do I move on?
Yes, sir.
Everyone?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Now, if I take this ahead, let's have a look at what Michael Anderson has to say. According to Michael Anderson, Anderson argued that no single family or household structure was dominant during the industrialization process, right? Which is again in contrast to the fifth theory, right? Both reconstituted and lone parent families existed in pre-industrial societies mainly because of high death rates amongst the poor. Now, according to Michael Anderson, because back then, like I said, because of numerous reasons, आपका life expectancy low थी, life expectancy low होगी तो आपके पास लाइफ एक्सपेक्टेंसी लो होगी तो आपके पास people would
And
die younger, and if people are dying younger, that in other word means कि आपके पास ज़्यादा lone parent families होंगी, a single parent family, right? And that means there would be more chances of reconstituted marriages, reconstituted leading to reconstituted families, right? तो do we get this? तो हमारा ये assume करना कि पहले सिर्फ और सिर्फ हमारे पास extended families थी, that is according to the fit thesis might be an over exaggerated version of reality. Get it?
yes,
Yes, sir.
yes, sir.
Anderson suggests that during the process of industrialization, the working class developed a broadly extended family structure, mainly as a consequence of urbanization. Now, let me put this to you through an example. See, uh, if you talk about Middle Eastern countries, you've seen how the working class, when they move to Middle Eastern countries or elsewhere, they usually, I mean, if you're moving from one place to another, there's a lot of uncertainty, right? माइग्रेशन की एग्जांपल ले लें, राइट? आप एक जगह से दूसरी जगह जाते हो तो वहाँ पे बहुत ज़्यादा अनसर्टेनिटी होती है. एंड अकॉर्डिंग टू the fifth thesis, industrialization led to urbanization too. You know what? जब आप इंडस्ट्रियलाइजेशन की बात करते हैं, आप रूरल एरिया से अर्बन एरियाज की तरफ मूव करने की बात कर रहे हैं, तो डोंट यू थिंक इट वुड मेक मोर सेंस to it would make more sense when a lot of nuclear families they start living together as a support system. अभी भी नहीं समझ में आया तो आप यूके, अगर देसी हम लोग आ रहे यहाँ पे माइग्रेट यूके जाते हैं, कनाडा जाते हैं, तो दे end up living as communities. They end up living at places where there are a lot of desis around. What's the reason behind that? The reason behind that is you expecting to have support from people from the same community or the same ethnic origin. No?
Yes, sir.
right? So when we talk about people actually moving or migrating from rural areas to to urban areas, don't you think that might have given them a reason to go and live there together, so that one, it saves you a lot of money, right? Number two, you have someone to rely on in times of need. Get it? Number three, because there are people over there from your community, we're talking about a possibility of nepotism helping you. We're talking about a possibility of people around being there for you whenever you need help from them. We get it,
Yes.
right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Now,
Yeah.
as towns developed around factories, pressure on living space resulted in extended families that satisfied a number of purpose. Bang! We just took a U-turn over here. We just took a dramatic U-turn over here. अभी तक हम क्या बात कर रहे थे? According to the fifth thesis again, right? ये मैं नहीं कह रही, fifth thesis claim कर रही है, right? According to the fifth thesis, इंडस्ट्रियलाइजेशन की वजह से अर्बनाइजेशन हुई थी. अर्बनाइजेशन का के साथ साथ a part of package over here was the prominence or the popularity that the nuclear families gained, right? However, over here we're talking about something that's totally opposite to what we had thought of earlier. What we're talking about is people moving to urban areas and they living together. मतलब उल्टी बात हो गई, इंडस्ट्रियलाइजेशन से एक्सटेंड फैमिलीज बढ़ी थी ना कि कम हुई थी, अकॉर्डिंग टू दिस एक्सप्लेनेशन. Get it?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Now,
Can you
the
explain?
G,
Can you explain more, sir?
what more would you want me to?
किस तरह से nuclear family, extended family
You need to complete your sentence before you put your mic off.
सर मैं पूछ रहा हूँ कि सर एक्सप्लेन कर सकते हैं कि सर किस तरह एक्सटेंडेड फैमिलीज वापिस से बढ़ी थी.
That is what I was talking about, John. See, what according to this explanation, because people migrated from rural areas to urban areas, over there they required a lot of support from people who were like them, who shared the same background, जिसकी वजह से उनके लिए अब ये ज़रूरी था कि वे वो वहाँ जाके किसी और की मदद के साथ 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 रहें सारे लोग. क्यों? क्योंकि आपके पास गवर्नमेंट सपोर्ट नहीं थी. क्यों? क्योंकि आपका आपके पास इन दिस केस दिस वुड हैव हेल्प्ड यू be a part of a network that would have helped you secure a job, right? And because if when you move from one place to another, you don't just go there and start earning a lot. In the cases where both parents worked, an extended family would have been a blessing when it comes to childcare. And then the
Yes, sir.
death rates were high. If the death rates were high, where do the orphans go? If it's an extended family, they get absorbed very easily. If there are nuclear families, if it's an extended family, then you just a part of that family, you just living together. If everyone's living as a nuclear family, don't you think एक बहुत बड़ा सवाल ये उठेगा कि ये orphans अब किसके साथ रहेंगे? Do we
Yes, sir.
do we all get this?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes,
जी
sir.
सर.
Yes, sir.
The lack of government help for the sick or unemployed meant that working class families relied on a strong kinship network for their care and survival. One. Number two, most people could barely read or write. So, kinship networks helped to secure jobs for family members by recommending them to employers. Right? Number three, if both parents worked, relatives played a vital part in childcare. Number four, death rates were high, but children without parents or orphans could be absorbed into the extended family structures easier in an easier manner. Number five, children worked from quite a young age, so young relatives were used to add to the family income over here. Get it, dear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. जी.
However, at the same time, this is something that we've discussed earlier as well. With the pass of time, quite a lot of functions that were once performed by families are now being taken care of by a range of specialized institutions. For instance, like I had mentioned the last class as well, it was considered to be the family's responsibility to be able to educate children. However, today, with the passage of time, this responsibility has been taken over by a formal education system. Likewise, when it comes to health related issues, today there are a range of professionals that are there. There are people, there doctors there, there are nurses there, there are social workers there, and there's in many what do you call it, developed countries, there's a well established healthcare system. Likewise, recreation and leisure activities once focused on the family alone, this has become either more individualized or something that is done outside the home now. Do we all understand this?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Right?
Yes, sir.
Taking it a step further, these functions can, however, be seen as having been modified rather than being completely lost. I'm sure you'd agree to this. You know what? Today, as we speak, yes, there's an education system that is there to educate your children. But then again, don't you think when it comes to a child's education, there has to be a lot of involvement by parents?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. And especially when you talk about younger children, especially when you talk about children who are going through their primary and early secondary. Number two, families play an important care even today. I mean, fine, there are hospitals, fine, there are hospitals that wouldn't even charge you money when you talk about developed countries, unlike ours. But non-critical illnesses are still taken care of at home only. Get
Yes,
that?
sir.
Do we understand this?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Now, the third point, many families, especially those with young children, share leisure and recreation. Although this may be largely consumed outside the home as part of the leisure industry today. Do we understand this?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
All right. Now we're on page number 86, and we were discussing arguments against the fifth thesis. And while discussing arguments against the fifth thesis, we put forward, or we discuss quite a few points over here that I'm sure once you develop, they can help you score better in your answer. And how about, let's make up a question out of this. Let's make up a question. Let's see if you've actually understood. Now, what if you get a question that says, mm-hmm, okay.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
The claim that the FIT thesis provides the most commendable explanation about the changes in family structure during industrialization. Let me see how many of you attempt this. And I. Do you want me to explain this question? I mean, I can, but I want you to give it a try first.
No, sir. अभी नहीं.
Abhinay, yeah, Abhinay. I'd want you to attempt it first. And there isn't much that this question demands for, anyways, as long as you're comprehending the question well. Let me remind you, you're supposed to read the question a couple of times to be able to understand what it actually demands from you. And then brainstorming plays a very important role. You read both the topics, you read the question, you read the topics again, you read the question, you do your brainstorming, you say Bismillah Rahman Rahim, and then you start. Right?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
And one more thing, you know what? When you're attempting an answer, make a point that you're doing it in one go. राइट, ये नहीं कि एक आंसर आप टुकड़ों में बैठ के करें. आई मीन you're old enough to be able to sit with your books for 2 hours. Initially it might take you a bit. If you're actually planning on putting in efforts, initially it might take you a bit, and I mean once you get the, it won't really be a problem. Stay happy, healthy, safe and protected, stay humble, and Allah Hafiz.
Allah Hafiz, sir.